It will be hard to see chess the same way again after going over this brilliancy by José Raúl Capablanca, the great Cuban world champion. In this game, he makes moves that are often counterintuitive. A couple of moves in particular violate our sense of what game of chess should be played like. Yet in the hands of that great master, they're absolute brilliancies. His opponent is David Yanofsky. This was played in 1916 in New York. Yanofsky has white, Capablanca has black. The best move from white here is actually probably c5, inviting black to damage white's pawn structure, and he can advance this pawn. He has pressure on the a-file. Yanofsky goes ahead and takes Capablanca's queen. Capablanca takes with his pawn. Now, right now, these pawns are a nice cluster. So Yanofsky wants to isolate those pawns. So he takes on d5. Knight takes, and you just ask yourself that question. If your answer to that question is the e4 square, then you definitely get a gold star. That e4 square would be a monster square for the light-squared bishop. But how to get it there? Capablanca plays b4. The value of that bishop on e4 is so great, he's not worried about the loss of a pawn. He's created a route now. Bishop, a4. c2 e4 pawn takes. Bishop goes to a4, threatening to play to c2, even gaining a tempo along the way. So Janowski plays rook to a1 to activate the rook, bishop c2 going to e4, bishop g3, and bishop to e4. Check, and compare that. Bishop that was sitting on d7 now with this monster on e4. Beautiful, beautiful chess. The king moves out of check. Now h5. Capablanca looks to crack open this g-file, using that pawn rook to a7 to create a pin here against the bishop at e7. But now, bishop takes knight. He gives up that beautiful bishop for tactical reasons because after rook. g2, h4 is coming in, forcing open the g-file. Yanofsky takes on h4. Now he does have some pressure on e7, right? I mean, the bishop is hitting it. It's pinned by the rook at a 7, but Capablanca's not worried about that. Rook takes g2 check king to f3, rook takes h2, and now bishop takes e7. Now watch this maneuver. What Janowski wants to do here is move this bishop with a discovered check, and he wants to move the bishop to a square where it can attack something. So this is what Capablanca does. He plays rook to h3 check, king f2, rook to b3. Now look at Capablanca's pieces and pawns. Every single one is on a light square. That means this bishop at e7 has no targets. It can move anywhere, but it will not be able to attack anything. Capablanca has in his position nothing. Knight to c3, and Capablanca plays the move bishop to f5. Now this move is often frowned upon because it leaves this b7 pawn undefended, and Yanofsky immediately jumps on that with queen to b3 attacking that pawn. These days, people will take on d5 first and then play queen to b3. But this is a good move from white, and Yanofsky can be happy about his opening position against Capablanca. And this is the first move that Capablanca plays, however, that seems counterintuitive. He plays the move queen to b6, offering the exchange of queens and letting his pawn structure intentionally be damaged. Basically, his thought is this. He knows that the pressure on this pawn at some point is going to force white to move it if he wants to develop his rook. When this pawn moves, his light squares, particularly b3 and c4, are going to be weak, and Capablanca wants to exploit those pawns with moves like b5, knight a5, knight c4, and this bishop on d7 supports all of those ideas, including supporting a b5 push. Capablanca is going to use this weakness as a strength. Watch how he does it. Bishop to e2, e6, castles. Bishop to d6, rook f to c1. And if white takes the knight, not only does he fix Capablanca's pawn structure, but he would give him the advantage of the bishop pair. So he does not want to do that. So he plays knight to d2 instead to try to challenge the knight with his own knight. But all of a sudden, white's the one reacting, and black has the initiative. Capablanca plays an interesting move, f5 clamping down on e4, and the knight on f3 would be better positioned to jump into e5, but on d2 he would have to lose a couple of tempo to get back there. So, an interesting idea, and of course he also wants to just gain space in the endgame. He uses space brilliantly in this game. And Capablanca is threatening rook to a 3, which would be checkmate here. The king can't go forward because of this pawn at f5. And there's essentially nothing Yanovsky can do here. He can just delay it. He plays rook takes e6, check king to h7, rook to e7. He had resigned actually before these last couple of moves, and then Capablanca could just play king to g8, and there's literally nothing he can do to stop rook to a 3 mate. One of the greatest strategic games in the history of chess. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed it.